Guess we'll get started now. My name is Zach Solomon. I'm the manager of membership and education for the Palm Springs International Film Society. Thank you all so much for attending this closing night exclusive Q&A for all the members of the Palm Springs International Film Society. It's been a really great week of being able to do this. The filmmakers that have been doing it so far have really loved the experience of getting to talk with each other and have some audience interaction with all of you. It's a part of the festival that we really dearly miss, and especially having the filmmakers out here. I can say for the staff of ShortFest that this is our favorite week of the year, and it's still been a great week, but it's also amazing to have you in person. So to be able to do some form of that with all of you and you being so gracious with your time to make it happen, we greatly appreciate you being here. And before we get started, I just want to say a few things. On behalf of the festival, we want to acknowledge the pain and the anger we're all feeling right now, not just about the most recent events we've witnessed, but also about the long-standing history of injustice and equality. We stand with Black Lives Matter, and we are committed to working together to move our community, our country, and the world closer to unity, understanding, and inclusivity. A few housekeeping items. Before we get started, please, at the bottom, you can see the Q&A button. You can submit your questions there. We can type them out if they're kind of small clerical questions and answer them that way. And then if you want to ask your question live, you can raise your hand as well, and then I can unmute you so that you can ask your question. And let's see. And we will get to the questions. We'll start getting to your questions about 20 minutes into this. So yeah, that's about it. And now all of the amazing filmmakers here would introduce themselves. We'll start with Rachel.
Ooh, I'm Rachel Harrison Gordon. I'm the writer director of Broken Bird, and I'm calling in from Philadelphia.
And then let's go to Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Johnson, director of Girl Calling, and I'm in Los Angeles, California.
And Ben.
I'm Ben Proudfoot. I directed The Lost Astronaut, and I'm calling from North Hollywood, California.
And Logan.
Hi, I am Logan Jackson, writer-director of My Hero, and I am also calling from North Hollywood, like Ben.
And finally, Hao Hao.
Hi everyone, my name is Hao Hao Yan. I'm the writer-director for The Speech. I'm also calling from LA.
Thank you so much for being here. This block of films is our closing night program, so there's not specifically anything. However, in putting it together, I've noticed some connections in a lot of places. And I guess I want to start with the three films that are about youth and feel very therapeutic, and have very different things going on, but a lot of connections as well. For Rachel, and actually for Rachel, Logan, and How, and we can start with Rachel. It felt so personal. It reminded me of therapy I've done, and like going back into a moment. Can you talk about the process of when you're on set? Is it eerie to be kind of reliving an experience like that, and how personal was it to the T, I guess?
Sure. This was my first movie, and it took a long time to get to a point where I could even consider myself an artist. And it was just through making this film that I said, I'm literally a filmmaker now, so I should just embrace that title. I think there was a lot of doubt to bring an autobiographical story into a film, just because there's a stigma of writing about yourself that you're egotistical or lazy, but it took a while for me to recognize my experience was valid. And through sharing the story with my classmates, even if they weren't Black or Jewish, they responded to the divorced parent situation. There's a lot in there, and I think that art is helpful and necessary to process. So I hear what you're saying about therapy, and I think that art should be more omnipresent in everyone's lives, because it really helps us understand a lot of what we're going through. I saw a lot of my own experience, I think, in all of the films that I watched in this group, and I think that's just the power of film.
Nice.
Logan, my hero was like, I've had multiple people tell me it's like made them cry, and it's like been a really kind of like moving thing. And also your story, getting to know you last year at ShortFest, and before going into kind of like some questions about that, I guess just how the same kind of question, I guess, like how was it shooting My Hero? How did it feel on set, and how did it feel to kind of bring that story to light?
Um, it was an incredible experience. It's a very personal story for me. My friend Brandon Elliott passed from epilepsy, so the story deals with epilepsy. So writing the script for me was not even a thought. It wasn't hard to do at all. I literally wrote it in probably like 40 minutes, and I wanted to shoot it right away because I had so much emotion built up from it. So I wanted to go to set immediately and shoot this. So gathered my crew, gathered the cast. The young boys are actually brothers, and they're amazing in it. And when we were on set, this was the first time that I was on set where literally everything went right. So I thought it was like divine. So it was very personal for me, and the bringing together of it was, man, it was very smooth, and
I'm gonna
great reception.
I'm gonna get back to you as far as like process and the journey from ShortFest. But before we do, I want to get to how and the film is so eerie to watch right now. It's so bizarre to watch that story, and I imagine it's also personal in some way, or in a large way as well. What's I guess the thing I'm very curious about is what's been the difference in response from people who saw the speech before COVID and people who have seen it, who have watched it since COVID?
Right. It is also a very personal story for me. Everything happened in the movie basically happened either to me or my friends that I grew up with before COVID. Not a lot of people have the background because I think SARS wasn't big in the US or in the Western countries. It was mostly in Asia. We had this, so it's also it's my thesis film, so we have to go through the school and the teachers watch it. We have this comments from a editing teacher who says he sees that the kids are taking temperatures, and he paused it and he asked, is this a sci-fi movie? So that was like, okay. I was very worried at that point, but I think if you watch it to the end, you kind of hopefully get that it's not a sci-fi movie. But yeah, after COVID happened, people reaching out to me, I'll respond to it as like it's very similar to the situation right now, and yeah, it's very scary to watch. Yeah, but the film was shot last May, so it wasn't our intention to be relevant. Anyways, I'm glad that this film can reach out to more people.
Yeah, it was so strange watching it and seeing where we're at today too. Tiffany, the for Girl Colin, the thing that I couldn't help but notice as watching it is that it just oozes with fun. It felt like the inspiration for it was to have the most fun possible shooting on set. Is that the truth? And was it as fun as it feels like it was?
Well, what's funny is, so we shot that last March in Lancaster, in the desert, and it was freezing cold. It was like, maybe 30 degrees, like windy. It was crazy how cold it was, and we made it look like it was so hot. So actually, it was fun, but our core actors, are in shorts outside for most of it, and in between takes, we're having to cover them up with warming blankets because it's freezing. So it was fun, I will say, but I'm sure it was the elements, didn't really help us in that case. And yeah, so but we did have a good time. It definitely felt like film camp in a way. We were stayed out there for 3 days, and yeah, it was a very like hands-on collaborative experience all around. So yeah, we had a blast.
What was the collaborative process like with Refinery 29? How did they get involved with you and with that project?
Yeah, so my dear friend Adrian Childress, who we've met many, many years ago. She came to me with the script idea, and this was the first narrative short that I wasn't a part of the story, which is why I was excited about doing it, and flattered that she wanted me to bring it to life, because I was sort of stepping into a world that wasn't necessarily my own. So it was great that she was very open to my ideas, and really trying to bring this very this colorful palette to it. And Refinery supported that the entire way. We had to, before joining teams with Refinery, we did like a pitch deck, and walk them through the visuals and what we were hoping to accomplish with it. And they were super supportive, and gave us the green light all the way. And yeah, didn't really, there wasn't they were very open, and just trusted what we were trying to do. And that was really very helpful when you have the financiers who understand the vision and want to be a part of that. So it was a good collaboration.
Ben, with Lost Astronaut, how did you come in contact with Dwight, with Ed, and yeah, how did that dialogue start with him?
Yeah, so we were engaged in researching this series with New York Times op docs called Almost Famous, which is an ongoing series that I'm working on with them, which has been just an incredible experience. And Jamie Wu at our company brought Ed's story to my attention. She found an article about him. This is in like spring of last year. And, sometimes people are easy to get a hold of in doc filmmaking, and sometimes people are really hard to get a hold of. Ed has a website, and it had a phone number. And I picked up the phone, I dialed the number, and Ed Dwight, I said, is this Ed Dwight? He said, yeah, what do you want? And, I sort of was not prepared. I thought I'd leave a message or talk to somebody who would get back to me, kind of thing. So I talked to Ed for about 30 minutes, and I was particularly, his story is about, how in the 1960s, early 1960s, he was set to become the first African-American astronaut, and then suddenly wasn't. And then in a remarkable turn of events, becomes one of the most prolific sculptors in the United States, and has created hundreds of bronze sculptures of African-American historical figures all over the country. Which the first part of the story is an amazing story, and one that we need to hear. But that the second half of the story, when I heard that part, I just couldn't believe it. And it just was this like monumental thing that I just needed to get to Colorado as soon as possible and interview him.
And it seems like you're starting the process of having a pretty big collaboration with New York Times op docs, and you've done some other pieces with them. And how's that collaboration been like? How did that kind of get started for you?
Yeah, so New York Times is interesting. It's a great relationship, but like contractually they won't agree to make it an op doc until it's done. So you kind of have to like go on faith that they will like it when it's done. But it started, I made a film about this fish and chip mogul named Haddon Salt, who came from England in the 1960s, and he started this fish and chip chain that Kentucky Fried Chicken bought. And then 500 stores opened, and he kind of sold out, and then the whole thing collapsed. And it kicked us off on this idea of people that if history had gone a little differently, they might be a household name. And then we started thinking of all the different reasons why people don't become famous, and why history remembers some people and not other people, and started finding, obviously veins of racism and sexism and personal choice that really bring up a lot of fundamental questions about our society and about our own goals. So we've made 4 of them now, and we're making 4 more. And hopefully the New York Times will like them.
Gonna get into casting and working with actors, and gonna start with Logan. And also for Logan, I guess I'm really curious about the journey from, I met you at ShortFest last year. You were everywhere. You were at every single thing. You were talking to every single person. And I guess I'm curious, how did your experience with ShortFest last year influence My Hero and the growth from your film from the market from last year into My Hero?
Yeah, I mean, it greatly inspired me because last year was my first year attending the festival, although I was denied entry 2 years straight. So I kept getting rejected from Palm Springs. But I went to the market place last year with the film. I had American Stages. So I just took the most of that opportunity and really befriended every filmmaker that I thought was great, and talked to the staff, and really got to enjoy the whole Palm Springs festival. And I got inspired so much, and I learned so much from these great people, and watching just short films all day, figuring out what I did wrong, what I did right, just really becoming a student of the game, into a craft that I love so much. So literally after that festival, like, I went home, man, on cloud nine, just so inspired, just so ready to create. And a lot of the festival friends that I made, they gave me great feedback on this film. I sent it to friends in Brazil, to Australia, to India. You know how the festival is; you make friends all over. So yeah, it was amazing for me. That if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never made My Hero. So I'll owe it all really to Palm Springs. So.
And working with kids, I think the best thing to do is always to let kids be kids. And we can get into that with everyone here. But
Yeah.
how is that experience? Had you done a lot of like working with children actors before? Were they actors, or were they just like, or did you know them? How did you cast them?
Yeah, they were actors. I came across them through LA Casting, and they're so well mannered and so polite. They're really amazing kids. So when they got to set, they were almost too well mannered and whatnot, and they really wasn't too loose. So I had a huge script written out, of course, and every time they delivered the dialogue, it came across as too plastic, I'd say. So I said, you know what? Hey, listen, let's just, and I filmed it in my apartment. So they came every week to get comfortable for about a month. And I let them do backflips off my couch, and they just had the greatest fun here. So they could just be comfortable when they came to set. And we took away the script, and I said, you guys just have fun. This is your domain. Let boys be boys, kids be kids, and we'll do our best to capture it. So that's literally what we did. I didn't want to take the joy out of their childlike behavior.
How going from you had roughly, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 young children that were in the film, and also the school looked like very familiar. Did you shoot this in the States, or did you shoot it in Beijing?
Everything is shot in LA.
Yeah. That school, that stair set. This is weird, but that stair set is like a famous skate spot.
Yes.
So like I know I like recognized that school when I saw it. So how did you go about finding 30 young Chinese actors? Were they all actors, or were they? Yeah, I guess. How did you go about How did you go about casting the film?
Yeah, that was the toughest part. Casting and location was the toughest part for us. It just needs time. We started early, and only one kid, the last kid in the movie, Jen Jen, she is a experienced child actor. All the other kids is their first time acting. So we did a lot of rehearsals. I just went to as many, afternoon school, like after school classes as possible. And then, there are Chinese supermarkets. We just stand outside, wait for parents and kids to come out and be a little creepy, and then follow them a little bit, and welcome them to the auditions. And some kids are just natural actors. And I am really lucky that I think they're at an age where they don't really have an idea what movie making is, and they don't really understand what it means that your face will be on the screen. So they don't really care about it. I think more importantly, they love to hang out with each other, just as Logan said, because these 20, 30 kids, we do multiple exercise rehearsals each week, and they get together and they make new friends. So they love it. It's more like an activity now for them. So I'm really happy that they formed friendship after this movie, and yeah, I'm really lucky to find them.
Rachel, the young actress that you found for Birdie is incredible. She's so good. And then also, how did you find her? And then also, How'd you get in touch with Chad L. Coleman of Wire fame? I'm like a huge fan, and that's awesome to see him in your movie. So yeah, how did that come about?
Man, I mean, for him, I felt the same way. For both casting situations, actually, they were professors who read the script who connected us. And I remember the professor was like, "Do you know Chad L. Coleman?" I was like, "You mean Cuddy?" Like, obviously, he's my second dad, in my opinion. And now I actually got to make that happen. And that was. I remember being so terrified to get on the phone with him, and it was all sweaty, but he picked up the phone and his voice was instantly, it just felt familiar. It felt like we'd just been talking for hours after minutes. And I was like, I want you in my life in addition to this movie. So grateful for that. And then Indigo, who is a superstar, I'm so grateful. She like graced me with her presence, but she was in Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It TV show, and he teaches at our school and read our script and thought it might be a good fit. And I just remember watching a couple of the episodes with him out of context and seen them before, but whatever. And you could just tell already her presence was magnetic. She's a dancer, singer. So, if you're hiring, please think of Indigo, because I hope to work with her forever.
Was the segments at the end and the kind of fantasy segments of her dancing, was that something that you had always thought of, or was that something that once you had her that became more of a reality of what you might do with the movie?
It wasn't something that was originally in the script, but yeah, once we started shooting, I really decided that I wanted that footage period. I wasn't quite sure. Maybe it was the producer in me that's like, oh, this would be a really great trailer, and it's not even in the trailer. But I thought it would be a really compelling moment of victory, and then discovering really what it was is walking back into my temple, which has been a place full of conflicted feelings, and I felt ostracized and kind of ogled at my whole life. We actually had a really challenging shoot there of just getting kind of pushed back for no reason. And so it was like, oh, we're taking this space and we're claiming it now. And she's up on the bima where the most like religious book is held, and she's dancing barefoot. And it's like, you go, girl. So yeah.
Tiffany, you're obviously Girl Calling is very much in the mold of kind of genre crime comedy. Like it feels like similar to a lot of like films that I love, and I'm sure you love as well. But the core of it does kind of hinge on the rapport of the two friends, and it does feel like a place of coming from a real friendship. When you were writing Girl Calling, is that very much kind of, is there a specific relationship that's kind of indicative of in your life, or that you were pulling from in your life?
Yeah, well, Adrienne Childress actually wrote it, and it is loosely based on her and her friend's experience of coming back from a Vegas trip and finding this bag off side of the road. And so in writing that, I had worked with Courtney Sauls before, who in my first short, and she kind of came to mind when I was reading this script. And so I loosely pitched Courtney to Adrienne, and she was like, oh no, I think totally she could do this. And then I had just recently worked with Griffin Matthews. I directed him on an episode of Dear White People, and I had met him on that and just thought he was so amazing, and he knew Courtney, and I just thought like, oh, that chemistry, I think there's something very authentic and like, they have that natural like shade sort of relationship where like they can throw shade at each other and it feels still like love, you know what I mean? So it just worked, and it kind of they really put themselves into those characters and really made them feel like a true authentic friendship that they've had for years. So it was, I really give them a lot of the credit for bringing that script to life in that way. But yeah, it was very authentic to Adrienne's friendships, and just like the sort of the banter that they have between each other and stuff. So I just pointed the camera at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ben, how has Ed sort of responded to the film being out there? Is he like getting blown up a lot? Like, are people hitting him up all the time? And does he even like that? Yeah, how's Ed feel about the movie?
I've talked to Ed a few times since it came out. I don't think he's a huge fan of crying on the front page of the New York Times. And he made it known to me that he wished he hadn't lost it. But I think he knows that his story is an important one that everybody wants and needs to hear. But I didn't really break the Ed Dwight story. It has been actually written up in the New York Times and other documentaries. There was a lead up to the moon landing PBS documentary that did a segment on Dwight, in particular Chuck Yeager's pretty horrible racist actions and commentary. So he had been, I think, getting some feedback, but I think there was an extra push from this. And I think he likes it. I mean, he is in his late 80s. And very, probably beat me in a running race. And he likes having conversations with people about it. And he's got a lot of ideas, and this short documentary only has the most basic thread of what happened. There's a lot more to his life. So I think he liked it overall. Yeah.
I'm curious with all these films about finding your ending, and possibly and how to come about that with a short. And I guess I want to start with how because the ending of the speech is really incredible. The ending of the speech is so good. When it feels like there's a commentary there, but there doesn't need to be. Also, it can live on its own. And obviously, and I'm sure that could have been based off of something you saw or something you went through as well. For that ending, was that something that you always knew was going to end there? Is there anything specific to what that ending is saying, or is it just literally taking an event and putting it and choosing that's where it should end?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's the ending was the first inspiration of the movie, and it's called The Speech. Originally, it's just about this one girl and this one moment. I wanted to make a short film that takes place starting from the backstage and then all the way till she walks off the stage. And then, as many of you guys the filmmakers have said, that writing something that's so close to you, it's very difficult. And because that moment I personally experienced when I was a kid, and I still couldn't figure out what was I thinking, because the same situation applies to me right now at my age. I wouldn't dare to do it anymore. So it's a moment I want to discover more when looking back into my childhood, and from that plot, I start to develop more, and I start to put my friend's experience in, and that's how this film ended up to have three parts. Yeah, I wish it's an ending that doesn't need to be a commentary, because I want it to be an emotional moment, and I wanted it also to maintain a certain mystery to human behaviors, because I do feel like people make weird decisions all the time, and even though sometimes you don't have a good understanding of it at the moment, everything should make sense. So that's the kind of feeling I want to capture. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were things I thought, but I really did feel like the moment could stand alone. It didn't need to have anything extra that it was saying. And for Rachel, with your ending, I actually watched it with my dad, and he was like, "I want to be there more. I want to be in it." It did the thing that you want shorts to do, which is not like, oh, it should have been longer, but leave them wanting more a little bit, and so. But I was curious, how did you come about finding your ending, and kind of having the kind of credit sequence be the ending as well? Did you have a different intention of what you thought the ending might be at a certain point in the process?
Yeah, the ending fluctuated a lot, probably because the story is autobiographical, and I felt protective of my parents and the relationship I had with them individually, that I didn't have enough time to really showcase in a short so that you could really understand all of their motivations. And I was really hesitant to portray a Black man that didn't live up to a promise that he had made, because I know that is a really harmful view to keep perpetuating. And in this story, I felt like we had successfully shown that even if he's not physically there at the end, the mark that he left on her with their time together in that day, that she is really carrying that in with her. And her mom's not there either. So it's that she's absorbed the experiences of everyone in her life, built this multicultural mosaic of an identity and walked into her bat mitzvah on her own. And so I think that's why that dancing needed to be there, because it is a celebration. It is still something to be happy for, and hope that maybe people can't live up to promises, but if you believe in them, there is room for them to do better in the future. And so that's the ending and feeling I wanted to leave you with. And if you want to see more, we do get to explore both of their lives in the future. So tell your dad to sit tight.
Yeah, we'll do. Looking forward to it. And then Logan, with my hero and your ending, man, like the high wire act of earnestness, of just fully, it's hard. It's hard to be that earnest and that raw, and the balance of like how that can hit and how that can miss. I commend you for going for it to the extent that you did, because it is like, I guess, did you feel nervous? Because like if it doesn't land, then like, I know the power that it had for you, but like if it doesn't, did you feel nervous about whether like the emotional impact would land on like an audience, and what were there tools, or how did you come about finding that in the editing room? How much did you kind of play around with it?
Yeah, I knew the key to the film was to capture our boy's innocence. So I knew if that was our nucleus, if we was able to capture that, then everything else would work. So in regards to if I knew the ending would work, I had a good feeling about it. Just because we were able to capture the innocence so greatly. And we shot the film from front to back, so that way I was had a good grasp of where we were when we got to the end, and I was able to look at the footage from before and say, okay, all we have to do is really nail this ending, and we should be good. At least for me, I thought I would be satisfied with the film. When you put it out to the world, I don't know what people will perceive it as. I try not to dwell on if people are gonna like really like it. Should I do this? Should I do that? I just go off what kind of centered and hit me the most, and that did it for me. So I was completely satisfied with it.
I am going to ask one last question, but before I do, I just want to open it up to all of you attending. If you do want to ask a question before we go, feel free to submit it in the Q&A portion. And I guess what I'm just going to ask is what work or what movies or what things are sort of carrying you through the current moment that we are in this country right now? Like what movies or what work are you doing that is sort of what's sort of like, and then, or like, anything really, like what projects are you working on, but also like what things are sort of important to you during like this period of time right now. And I guess I'll start with Ben.
This has been an interesting time for a lot of different reasons. Unfortunately, my dad just passed away on May 1st. So I have been going today, obviously it's Father's Day. And I have been going through all of his papers and all of like our family photographs, and seeing the things that he wanted to do in life and different unfinished dreams and different things has really given me thought to how setting one's intentions in life are so important, right? Like it's kind of easy to feel like we're just sort of tumbling forward in a general direction and life is happening to us. But in retrospect, looking at his life, I really feel potently that, it's choices we make to be a certain way, to be better or not, that really make the difference. So in looking at what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, or really any element of my life, I'm trying to be intentional and think about that life is short and you have to make choices. That's what I'm thinking about, to be totally honest.
That's beautiful. Thanks for that answer, man. Tiffany, how about you?
Yeah, it's, first of all, Ben, I'm so sorry to hear that about your father. And I know I'm just meeting you via this, but I think there's so much truth in doing work with intention. So I second that. Yeah, it's been a very interesting time, and trying to maintain that balance of, you know, being active and being, you know, doing my part, but also finding time for the peace and the, you know, the mental state as well. And so just juggling all of that. But I have found some really, a group of friends of mine have been kind of diving into some really classic Black cinema. And so we do these like cinema shade like phone calls, and we kind of just watch these really dope films. And that's been something that's been really, really inspiring too, and just allowing me to want to keep moving forward and being a storyteller. And I found a lot of, you know, just comfort and support in that, and that we're all kind of in this weird space, but we're, you know, still trying to, you know, maintain the light and, yeah, and be inspired. So I just want to throw out a film that I revisited that I think everyone should check out. It's Carl Franklin's Devil in a Blue Dress, with Denzel Washington, that like I completely forgot existed, and I'm so embarrassed to say, but it is such a special film, and it's one that I don't think gets enough credit. So in terms of what I've been watching and things of that nature, that's a film that I think is amazing and was really inspiring to see. But yeah.
And how about you?
I started watching Twin Peaks, the TV series. It's my first time watching it, and it's so great because I'm not very familiar with TVs, and also it's not my culture, so I didn't grow up with it. But so many friends recommended it to me, and I finally decided to give it a try. It's so good. I'm like, I think I'm gonna rewatch it. It's definitely my favorite TV show, and it also just, it's mind blowing. I'm losing my words. It's so much better than a lot of the movies I saw, honestly. And it's the world building, the characters, everything. It's just so cohesive and so wholesome. And I think it really cured my heart during this time. And yeah, even though it's not a completely happy like movie, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, wait till you get to season 3. Then it
Okay,
gets...
yeah, I've been warned. Maybe I'll just stop at half of season 2. That's what people warned me.
Yeah. And really quick, I just had a question. Tiffany recommended Devil in a Blue Dress, which is an amazing Denzel Washington film, and so even close to Chinatown, even, which is, I don't
Yeah,
think
it's
too high praise.
Black noir, which
Yeah.
is like a genre that hasn't really been explored since, I think. And I was just so taken by how yeah, it's very Chinatown. It's very reminiscent of just 40s LA, which is really like a period that's really special.
Yeah.
And
We're
yeah.
not quite watching history, it's actually, how it was,
Yeah.
Logan.
Totally, yeah.
Logan, how about you?
My condolences to Ben, of course. Um, I actually watch a film a day, so I've been watching. Well, I watch a lot of film. I guess the most recent one I've seen is probably my brother's wedding. It's a older Black film, so I seen that one. Also, Midnight Cowboy. I rewatched that one a couple days ago, which is amazing, Oscar-winning film. Dustin Hoffman is crazy. But as far as like my schedule, what I've been doing during this quarantine, I've been getting back to me, actually, to better health and mental health, of course, with everything that's going on. So I've been working out a lot, been writing 500 words a day when I wake up, just fleshing out thoughts, reading books, just trying to keep my mental strong nowadays. I think it's completely overlooked. So mental health has been top priority for me.
And Rachel, we can close it out.
Sure, I can totally echo that. I'm usually consuming lots of media, but I think I've been using this time to find the way to express myself. I think that I grew up censoring my ideas partly because I was surrounded by white people, and I feel like my closeness to Blackness has been stunted, and I still feel far away. And this moment seems like a time where I can express the things that I feel without suffering the repercussions that I've had when I've exposed myself. Like, my film is very much about a Black girl interacting in a white space, and therefore the film's actually inspired conversations between the white people in my life that I love very much, but there's a prickly history there, and how, I feel like the ears are open, and that's, I don't know, I feel like I can breathe, and that's really special. So if I'm not, talking to people on Twitter, strangers that maybe I shouldn't be engaging with, or some ex-white friends or family, I'm planting sunflowers because there's something about, I don't know, digging and feeling something come to life that your hands were touching. It's I was in the city for some years, so this is getting back to something real, I think.
That feels like a really good note to end this conversation on. Plant sunflowers, watch Twin Peaks, and be intentional. I can't think of better suggestion. And watch a bunch of movies if you can. Sounds good. This has been great. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your work. We wish we could have had you here, but it's great to have you in this format nonetheless. And have a good rest of your day. And if you're with your fathers and Ben, my condolences, man. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody. And to the members, closing night, we might do a Best of Fest thing tomorrow, so look out for that. And that's it. It's a wrap. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
So much.
Yeah.
Love
Thank
you.